My mum was a school teacher and is still a school teacher, and my dad is an artist, I guess. He's a visual art. He does a lot of painting and sculpture and carving and stuff. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to be a painter or whether I wanted to be an actor or something completely different. And then I discovered that if you made movies, then you're kind of doing all of those things. So it was all the things I was interested in, all in one nice package. You know, it's freaky enough trying to make your first film alone, and then on top of that, working with kids who have never acted before, and in a remote location, and just trying to deal with that and the logistics of getting a performance out of a kid who doesn't even know what you're talking about when you're saying, no, your motivation here is... I realised really, really quickly that to direct a film, you don't need a huge amount of technical skill or talent, or all you have to do is just have a feeling for something, and you've got to feel what you want and be able to make a decision really fast. They said, this year we're going to try this new thing where we have the camera in the aisle in the crowd, and all the nominees are going to sit on the aisle, the seats. Myself and the rest of the nominees for the short film competition were all at these drinks one night. We're going to have a chance to be seen by millions and millions and millions of people. We've got to do something. And so I tried to convince them all that we should all fall asleep, that we should all be asleep, and that we should, all just be pretending to be so bored and be asleep. And they were like, yeah, that sounds great, that sounds great. And I thought they were serious, I thought they were into it, and I was the only one who did it. But I realised, I was looking at the screen, I was like, oh, they're not doing it. No one's doing it. And it's getting closer to me, and I thought, fuck, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I don't care. And I did it. And it was good. I mean, it was fun. Everyone over there appreciated it in the States, but I got home and a lot of New Zealanders thought it was embarrassing. I got some flack for that. I remember one letter said something like, I can't believe you had such disregard for the time-honoured tradition of the Academy Awards. Maybe he should have a little more respect for a Pākehā tradition, and because I'm sure he wouldn't fall asleep on a marae. And I said, yes, I would. I do it all the time. I wrote Tama Tu with the idea that I wanted to not work with kids, just get a bunch of guys together and just have some fun. And it was going to be really small. I wrote it so with the idea that this sort of small group of soldiers were stuck in a hole in like a field, and I was like, yeah, we'll just dig a hole, stick these guys in it, shoot it, take a day. And then I did more research into like what kind of soldiers they were. Originally I'd written it for some sort of like SAS guys. I've always loved the Māori battalion, always wanted to do something about that. And so I turned them into these guys from the Māori battalion, and then I checked out all the places that the Māori battalion had fought, and they're all in like, apart from the desert, they're in like these really like amazing Italian and European locations with like old architecture and stuff and bombed out cities. And I think it was like one of those days when we were having this conversation that Cliff and Ainsley and we drove past the Wellington Hospital, and it was all fenced off because they were knocking it down. And we looked at it and we saw it, and it has beautiful arched windows and stuff, just like in Italian architecture. And we looked at that and thought, oh shit. And so we stopped and went and talked to the foreman, and that day he was like, yeah, I don't see any problem, you can come in. And we got to like smash huge chunks of the hospital apart to make it look like it had been blown apart, and like use their pneumatic drills to like put bullet holes all through the concrete and stuff. It's amazing. And then so it looked amazing. It started looking incredible, and then we got this guy, this really great art director from Lord of the Rings, Shane Horsham, and he came in and he just like made the interior of the place. He like sourced all this old wallpaper and stuff, and like put it in. And so the place looks incredible. And then Peter Jackson and his mate have an armory, and they just collect all these old weapons, and we managed to like borrow these vintage machine guns and stuff off them, and like, so they're the real guns. So we had like armorers on set who were like making sure there were no rounds in any of the guns and stuff. So, well, Lauren made up this character called Lily, and then I really loved it. I thought that was hilarious, and that was a few years ago. And then I was trying to write a project for. I actually went to Sundance with the script, to this lab with the script for this film here, Volcano, and I finished that lab, and then they invited me back, and they said, "Do you have any other projects?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I do. I've got so many projects." I don't have any, and then I thought, "Oh shit, I've got to come up with something." And then so I talked to Lauren, and we just came up with this really loose idea about a girl who's just hanging out in the small town, and she falls in love with a guy who's got a kid. This film was it was really hard to sell as a particular genre. We weren't sure if it was a comedy or a drama, and it's because it's funny, but there's also really depressing moments in it as well. There's like, you know, and there's themes of like suicide and abandonment and people who just shouldn't be together, who are, and so yeah, I don't think people were really ready for that, and like the way it was marketed was as a comedy, you know, so people would go expecting a big comedy, and then they'd get to the part where, you know, someone's talking about their brother who killed themselves, and it's like a bit of a downer. And so people would walk out and go, "Yeah, it was funny, but it wasn't that funny." And so maybe it's better just to market it as a drama with some funny bits. I wrote 2 episodes, and so I was involved from, like, they storylined most of the show, and then they would get other writers to write some of these episodes. And so they would say to me, "We want to do this one about racism, and here's some of the ideas we've had so far." And then I would write. Then I wrote the episode based on, you know, their ideas. And then they said, "And we want to try and stick in like these 2 songs somewhere in there and try and make them work." You know, and that was the great thing about the first season, is that all the songs in it, all their you know, their sort of back catalogue of the last 7 or 8 years of making up these amazing songs and then testing them out, you know, on audiences for years and years, and then that the show had this really sort of weird tangential twist to it, because some of the songs just had nothing to do with what was going on in the show. It was like, we were like, how do we get this? How can we work in that song about whatever, you know? We say it's an extension of 2 Cars One Night, sort of an extension of the idea of just kids growing up in the country and looking after themselves and just hanging out in their world. And it's about these 2 brothers whose father re-emerges in their lives after being away for about 6 years in jail, and it's about them trying to be a family again. And again, it's either a comedy with depressing bits, or it's a drama with funny bits.
Are you in it?
Yeah. I play the father, and I'm actually great. I think you don't get into this business if you want to be rich. That's the revelation.
But your house.
I don't even know. Oh, but that. Yeah, but I brought that actually from being a waiter. That's my room there. I sleep up there. I had kids. They were my son, Taika Waititi, lives there.